A black teen battles racism in baseball, emerging as a star against all odds. Click like and subscribe to follow his powerful journey in our new video. And don't miss out. The baseball field at Lincoln High School in a small Ohio town was a sunlit expanse of green, its dirt diamond a stage for dreams and rivalries. The air filled with the crack of bats and the shouts of players. Trevon Harris stood in the outfield, his small frame a quiet presence amidst the bustle, his navy blue baseball uniform slightly oversized, his cap pulled low over his short curly hair, his deep brown eyes focused on the batter, a worn glove on his hand. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 5 inches, his body lean and wiry from years of running and playing catch. His passion for baseball a fire that had burned since he was a child. He had grown up idolizing players like Jackie Robinson, dreaming of one day stepping onto a major league field. But at Lincoln High, his love for the game made him a target. The school's baseball team was a tight-knit group. Its members mostly white boys who saw Trevon's presence as an intrusion. Trevon was one of the few black players on the team, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who clung to their prejudices. As he prepared for a fly ball, a group of players gathered near the dugout, their voices a low hum as they watched him. Jake Carter, a tall, muscular senior with short brown hair and cold blue eyes, led the pack, his friends, a mix of white teammates, all larger and more assertive than Trevon. Their laughter a constant assault. "Look at him," Jake called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Trevon to hear. "He thinks he's a real player. What a joke." Trevon's heart sank, his hands trembling as he adjusted his glove. He tried to focus on the game, his determination, a quiet defiance. But Jake's voice cut through his concentration like a blade. "He's so scrawny," Jake continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to do? Catch a ball with those skinny arms? He doesn't belong here." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Trevon's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Jake he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to the field, his heart aching. He just wanted to play baseball in peace, to be part of the team. But Jake wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "Where'd you even get that uniform?" he said, his tone sharp. "Did you steal it from the kids' league? It's pathetic." Trevon's throat tightened, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm here to play," he said, his words a quiet plea. "I'm not hurting anyone." Jake's laugh was loud, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Play?" he said, his tone mocking. You don't belong on this team. You're not one of us." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and scorn. One of the boys, a stocky kid named Ryan, stepped closer. "Yeah, go back to where you came from," he said, his tone sharp. "This field is for real players." The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to play," a boy named Ethan murmured. "They're being awful to him," his friend replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on Trevon's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his passion for baseball a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape. But it also made him a target. The field was Trevon's dream space, a place where he longed to shine. But even here he wasn't safe. Jake's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they moved closer to the outfield. Ryan grabbed a nearby baseball and tossed it at Trevon's feet, the ball rolling into the grass. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to pick that up now." Trevon's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's not funny." "Hey," he said, his voice steady despite the fear. "Stop it." Ryan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Jake smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said. "He's too small, too weak. He doesn't belong here." The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. One of the other boys, a lanky kid named Dylan, pushed Trevon's shoulder. "Get out," he said, his tone of command. "You're not welcome here." Trevon stumbled back, his heart racing. "I belong here just as much as you do," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not going anywhere." Jake's eyes narrowed, his tone sharp. "Oh, really?" he said, his voice a challenge. "We'll see about that. Let's see how you handle a real pitch." The group laughed, their voices a chorus of contempt. Dylan took a marker and scribbled "outsider" on Trevon's glove. "There, Jabon," he said, his tone mocking. "Now everyone knows what you are." The other players on the team continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to practice," a boy named Caleb murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied, but no one intervened. Trevon felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his passion, his dream, the crack of the bat that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension on the baseball field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Jake's malice. Trevon's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take, but he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The baseball diamond at Lincoln High School shimmered under the late afternoon sun, its green grass a vibrant contrast to the red dirt of the infield. The air filled with the sharp crack of bats and the rhythmic thump of balls hitting gloves. Trevon Harris stood in the batter's box during a team practice, his small frame a quiet figure amidst the flurry of activity, his navy blue uniform slightly loose on his slender body, his cap tilted low over his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes narrowed with focus as he gripped the bat, his hands steady despite the tension in his chest. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 5 inches. His wiry build, a testament to his speed rather than strength. His passion for baseball, a driving force in his life. But at Lincoln High, that passion made him a target. The team was a tight-knit group, its members mostly white boys who saw Trevon as an outsider. Trevon was one of the few black players on the squad, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who thrived on prejudice. As he prepared to swing, a group of teammates gathered near the pitcher's mound, their voices a low hum as they watched him. Jake Carter, the team's star pitcher, led the pack, his short brown hair catching the sunlight, his cold blue eyes glinting with malice. His friends, Ryan, Dylan, and a boy named Caleb, stood beside him, their laughter a constant undercurrent. "Look at him," Jake called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Trevon to hear. "He thinks he can hit my pitches. What a joke." Trevon's heart sank, his hands tightening around the bat. He tried to focus on the pitch, his determination a quiet defiance. But Jake's voice cut through his concentration like a shard of glass. "He's so pathetic," Jake continued, his tone mocking. "What's he going to do? Swing and miss again? He doesn't belong on this team." His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Trevon's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Jake he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to the plate, his heart aching. He just wanted to play baseball in peace, to be part of the team. But Jake wasn't done, his voice a relentless assault. "You think you're a real player, Trevon," he said, his tone sharp. "You're just here for a show. Go back to where you came from." The group laughed harder, their voices a mix of amusement and contempt. Ryan stepped forward, his voice mocking. "Yeah, Trevon," he said, "maybe you should stick to running track. This field isn't for you." The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's not that bad," a boy named Ethan murmured. "They're being awful to him," his friend replied. but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on Trevon's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his passion for baseball a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape, but it also made him a target. The field was Trevon's dream space, a place where he longed to shine. But even here, he wasn't safe. Jake's group grew bolder, their taunts escalating as they prepared for the next pitch. Dylan, a lanky boy with a cruel grin, stepped closer to the dugout. "Hey, Trevon," he called, his voice sharp. He grabbed a nearby water bottle, Trevon's, and squirted it onto the batter's box, creating a muddy puddle. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to hit from a swamp now." Trevon's heart raced, his hands trembling. "That's mine," he said, his voice steady despite the rising panic. "Stop it!" Dylan laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and contempt. "Make me," he challenged, his tone a taunt. Jake smirked, his voice sharp. "He won't," he said. "He's too small, too weak. He doesn't belong here." The group closed in, their presence a looming threat. Caleb, another teammate, took it further. "Let's see how he hits with this," he said, his voice sharp. He grabbed a handful of dirt from the infield and tossed it onto Trevon's uniform, the red dust staining his jersey. "Oops," he said, his tone mocking. "Guess you'll have to play dirty now." Trevon brushed the dirt off, his hands trembling, his voice breaking with frustration. "Stop it," he shouted, his voice a plea. "I'm just trying to practice." Jake laughed, his voice a mix of amusement and malice. "Practice," he said, his tone icy. "You're a joke. You don't fit in here." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. Ryan added to the cruelty. "Let's make where everyone knows," he said, his voice sharp. He grabbed a marker and wrote "wannabe" on Trevon's bat. "There, Pisoyista," he said, his tone mocking. "Now everyone knows what you are." The other players on the team continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's just trying to hit," a boy named Caleb murmured. "They're going too far," his friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on Trevon's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden. But he held on to his resolve. The crack of the bat, a distant dream that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension on the baseball field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Jake's malice. Trevon's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The baseball field at Lincoln High School was a battleground under the blazing afternoon sun, the green grass shimmering with heat, the air thick with the scent of dust and the sharp crack of bats meeting balls. Trevon Harris stood in the outfield during a team practice, his small frame a tense silhouette against the vast expanse, his navy blue uniform now streaked with dirt from earlier taunts, his cap pulled low over his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes narrowed with concentration as he tracked the pitcher's movements, his glove raised in readiness. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 5 inches, his wiry build a testament to his agility, his passion for baseball a beacon in his challenging world. But at Lincoln High, that passion made him a target. The team was a tight-knit group, its members mostly white boys who saw Trevon as an outsider. Trevon was one of the few black players on the squad, a fact that made him an easy mark for those who thrived on prejudice. As he prepared to catch a fly ball, a group of teammates gathered near the pitcher's mound, their voices a low hum of malice. Jake Carter, the team's star pitcher, led the pack, his short brown hair damp with sweat, his cold blue eyes glinting with a cruel intent. His friends, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, stood beside him, their laughter a constant undercurrent. "Let's see how he handles this," Jake called, his voice sharp, his tone loud enough for Trevon to hear. He thinks he can play outfield. Let's test him. Trevon's heart sank, his hands trembling as he adjusted his glove. He tried to focus on the play, his determination a quiet defiance. But Jake's voice cut through his concentration like a dagger. He's such a joke, Jake continued, his tone mocking. He'll probably drop it. He doesn't belong out there. His friends laughed, their voices a chorus of scorn. Trevon's cheeks burned, his hands trembling. He wanted to fight back, to tell Jake he was wrong, but the fear of escalating the situation, of drawing more attention, kept him silent. He turned back to the field, his heart aching. He just wanted to play baseball in peace, to be part of the team. But Jake had other plans, his voice a venomous promise. Watch this, boys, he said, his tone sharp. He wound up for a pitch, his arm a blur as he released the ball, not toward the batter, but directly at Trevon in the outfield. The ball rocketed through the air, a fastball aimed with precision. Trevon's eyes widened, his reflexes kicking in as he raised his glove. But the ball was too fast, too close. It struck him square in the face, a sickening thud echoing across the field as he stumbled back, his cap flying off, his hands clutching his face in agony. The crowd of teammates gasped, their voices a mix of shock and amusement. Got him, Ryan shouted, his tone mocking. Dylan doubled over with laughter. Nice aim, Jake, he called, his voice sharp. Caleb smirked. He deserved that, he said, his tone cruel. The other players on the field glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. That was on purpose, a boy named Ethan murmured. They're going too far, his friend replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on Trevon's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, his passion for baseball a double-edged sword. It was his joy, his escape, but it also made him a target. Coach Miller, a middle-aged man with a weathered face, stood near the dugout, his arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. Just a little accident. Boys, he called, his tone dismissive. Trevon, shake it off. It's all in good fun. The team laughed, their voices a chorus of amusement, but Trevon's vision blurred, a sharp pain radiating from his right eye, his hands trembling as he touched his face, feeling the swelling already beginning. I can't see, he said, his voice breaking with pain. My eye, it hurts. Jake laughed, his voice sharp. Stop being dramatic, he said, his tone mocking. You're fine. Don't make a big deal out of it. Ryan chimed in. Yeah, Trevon, he said, his tone cruel. It's just a little fun. You're not cut out for this anyway. The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. Trevon stumbled to the sidelines, his hands trembling, his vision in his right eye fading to a hazy blur. I need help, he said, his voice a plea. But Coach Miller waved him off. Walk it off, kid, he said, his tone sharp. We've got practice to finish. The other players on the field continued to whisper, their voices a mix of concern and indifference. He looks hurt, a boy named Caleb murmured. They shouldn't be laughing, his friend replied, but no one intervened. Trevon felt their stares, a weight he couldn't escape, his shame a heavy burden, the pain in his eye a searing reminder of his vulnerability. But he held on to his resolve. The crack of the bat, a distant dream that kept him going. I'll show them it, he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. Even as he stumbled off the field, his right eye swelling shut, his heart racing with pain and anger. He knew he had to keep going. The tension on the baseball field was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Jake's malice. Trevon's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. The nurse's office at Lincoln High School was a small, sterile room, its walls painted a stark white, the air tinged with the faint scent of antiseptic and the hum of a flickering fluorescent light. Trevon Harris sat on the edge of a narrow cot, his small frame hunched in pain, his navy blue uniform still streaked with dirt from the baseball field, his cap discarded beside him, his short curly hair matted with sweat, his deep brown eyes, one of them now swollen shut, glistening with unshed tears. His hands clutched an ice pack to his face, the throbbing pain in his right eye a constant reminder of Jake's cruel act. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 5 inches, his wiry build testament to his resilience, his passion for baseball a flickering flame amidst the storm of adversity. But at Lincoln High, that passion had made him a target. The team, mostly white boys, had treated him as an outsider, and the recent incident, where Jake had deliberately thrown a fastball into his face, had left him with a serious injury. The nurse, a middle-aged woman with a tired expression, examined his eye. "It's swollen pretty badly," she said, her voice clinical. "You'll need to see a doctor. This might affect your vision." Trevon's heart sank, his hands trembling. I can't see out of it," he said, his voice breaking. "It's all blurry." The nurse nodded, her tone sympathetic but detached. "I'll notify the administration," she said, "but you should go to the hospital as soon as possible." Trevon's mind raced, his heart aching. He knew his family couldn't afford a big medical bill, but he also knew he couldn't ignore the injury. The door opened, and Principal Hayes, a stern man with thinning gray hair and a perpetually furrowed brow, stepped inside, his expression a mix of annoyance and indifference. "Trevon," he said, his voice sharp, "I've spoken with Coach Miller. What happened out there was an accident. Nothing more." Trevon's heart raced, his hands trembling. "It wasn't an accident," he said, his voice steady despite the pain. "Jake threw the ball at my face on purpose. He wanted to hurt me." Principal Hayes raised a hand, his voice sharp. "Enough," he said, his tone final. "Coach Miller and the other players said it was a misthrow. There's no evidence of intent. We're not taking this further." Trevon's breath caught, his voice breaking. "No evidence?" he said, his tone a plea. "I can't see out of my eye. They laughed at me. They've been bullying me for months." Hayes' eyes narrowed, his voice cold. "You're blowing this out of proportion," he said. This is a team sport. Things happen. You need to toughen up." The nurse glanced at Hayes, her voice hesitant. "Sir, his injury is serious," she said, her tone cautious. "He needs medical attention." Hayes waved her off, his voice sharp. "His parents can handle that," he said. "The school isn't responsible for accidents during practice." Trevon's heart sank, his hands trembling. "That's not fair," he said, his voice breaking. "I got hurt because of them. You're supposed to protect us." Hayes turned to leave, his voice cold. "Practice is over. Go home." "Trevon," he said, his tone final. The door closed behind him, leaving Trevon alone with his pain. The nurse sighed, her voice soft. "I'm sorry, Trevon," she said. "I'll write a note for your parents. Get to a doctor as soon as you can." Trevon nodded, his heart aching. He felt abandoned. The weight of the school's indifference, a heavy burden. His injury a searing reminder of his vulnerability, but he held on to his resolve. The crack of the bat, a distant dream that kept him going. "I'll show them," he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. He left the nurse's office, his vision in his right eye still a blurry haze. His steps slow as he made his way home. The hospital visit confirmed the worst. His right eye had sustained significant trauma. The doctor's voice gentle, but grave. "You've got a retinal injury," she said. "Your vision in that eye may not fully recover." While Trevon's heart sank, his hands trembling. "But I play baseball," he said, his voice breaking. "I need to see." The doctor nodded, her tone sympathetic. "You can still play," she said, "but you'll need to adapt. Focus on your other senses. Your left eye can compensate." Trevon's mind raced, his heart aching. He knew this injury would change everything, but he also knew he couldn't give up. Back at school, the team continued as if nothing had happened. Jake and his group, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, smirked as Trevon returned, his right eye covered with a patch. "Look at the pirate," Jake called, his voice sharp. "Still think you belong here?" Trayvon's heart raced, his hands trembling. "I'm here to play," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not quitting," Ryan laughed his voice mocking. "Play?" he said. "You can't even see. Give up already." The group laughed, their voices a relentless assault. The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "He's still here," a boy named Ethan murmured. "He's tougher than he looks," his friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on Trayvon's shoulders. He felt alone, his shame a heavy burden, but he held on to his resolve, the doctor's words echoing in his mind. "You can still play," a mantra that gave him strength. Trayvon began training with renewed determination, adapting to his injury. He focused on his left eye, honing his depth perception, his swings becoming sharper, his catches more precise. He practiced late into the evenings, his small frame a blur of motion, his passion for baseball unyielding. "I'll show them he thought, his voice a quiet whisper in his mind, a resolve that gave him strength. The tension at Lincoln High was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Jake's malice. Trevon's heart raced, his mind racing. He didn't know how much longer he could endure this, how much more he could take. But he knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push him to his breaking point, a moment that would test his strength, his truth, his very identity. Yes, the baseball stadium at Lincoln High School was a sea of anticipation under the bright stadium lights, the green field glowing against the twilight sky, the air electric with the scent of popcorn and the roar of a packed crowd. Trayvon Harris stood in the batter's box during a crucial playoff game, his small frame a striking figure of resilience, his navy blue uniform now fitting snugly over his wiry build, his cap pulled low over his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes, one of them still impaired from the injury, focused intently on the pitcher, his hands gripping the bat with a steady determination. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent, his height a modest 5 feet 5 inches, his passion for baseball an unyielding force despite the adversity he'd faced, the bullying from Jake and his clique, the deliberate fastball to his face that had damaged his right eye. And the school's refusal to take responsibility had only fueled his resolve. With months of grueling training, Trevon had adapted to his impaired vision, relying on his left eye and heightened senses to sharpen his game. Tonight, with the score tied in the bottom of the 9th inning, he had a chance to prove his worth. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, their voices a mix of cheers and tension as the announcer's voice boomed. 2 outs, bases loaded. Lincoln High needs a hit to win. The stands were packed with students, parents, and scouts, their eyes locked on Trevon. Jake Carter and his group, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, stood in the dugout, their faces a mix of skepticism and unease. Jake's cold blue eyes narrowed. "He'll choke," he muttered, his voice sharp. "He can't even see right." Ryan smirked. "Yeah, he's a liability," he said, his tone mocking. The other players on the team glanced over, their whispers a mix of hope and doubt. "He's been clutch lately." A boy named Ethan murmured. "He might do it," his friend replied. The pitcher, a tall senior from the opposing team, wound up, his arm a blur as he released a fastball. Trevon's left eye tracked the ball, his body reacting on instinct. His bat swung with precision, a sharp crack echoing through the stadium as the ball soared over the infield. A line drive that landed just beyond the second baseman. The crowd erupted, their cheers a deafening wave as the runner on third base sprinted home. "He did it! Lincoln wins," the announcer shouted, the scoreboard flashing the final score. The stands exploded with applause. "Trevon! Trevon!" the crowd chanted, their voices a testament to his triumph. Trevon dropped his bat, his heart soaring as he rounded first base, his teammates rushing out of the dugout to surround him. You're a hero, man, Ethan shouted, his voice warm. Even Jake's clique couldn't deny the moment. Their faces pale, their silence a grudging acknowledgement. He won it, Dylan stammered, his voice a whisper. Caleb shook his head. I can't believe it, he muttered, his tone begrudging. Trevon's heart raced, his chest heaving with exertion, his left eye scanning the crowd, his right eye still a blurry haze. He had done it. He had led his team to victory, proving his worth despite his injury. Coach Miller approached, his weathered face a mix of shock and pride. Trevon, you've been our MVP these past games, he said, his voice warm. I was wrong to doubt you. I'm sorry. Trevon's heart lifted, his voice steady. Thank you, Coach, he said, his tone calm. I just wanted to play. The crowd continued to cheer, their voices a wave of support. Trevon's teammates lifted him onto their shoulders, parading him around the field. He's our guy. A teammate named Caleb shouted, his voice bright. The stands roared. He's a legend, a girl in the crowd yelled. He proved them wrong. Bess, her friend replied. Trevon's journey to this moment had been grueling. After the injury to his right eye, he had spent months adapting, training late into the night, honing at his batting and fielding with his left eye. He had studied videos of one-eyed athletes, learning to compensate with his hearing and spatial awareness. His swings had become sharper, his catches more precise. He had returned to the team with a quiet determination, his small frame a symbol of resilience, game after game. He had proven his value, catching fly balls with pinpoint accuracy, hitting doubles that turned games around. His teammates had slowly come to respect him. You're tougher than you look, Ethan had said after a win, his tone warm. Trevon had smiled. I had to be, he'd replied, his tone steady. The crowd's cheers washed over him, their voices a testament to his impact. Trevon's family watched from the stands, his mother's eyes shining with tears of pride. That's my boy, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. His younger brother clapped wildly. He's the best! Milm, he shouted, his voice bright. Trevon had turned his pain into power, his exclusion into a celebration of his talent. The team was now a united front, their victory a shared triumph. We're better with you, Trevon, Caleb said, his voice warm. Zuri smiled. We're better together, he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined the baseball field was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Trevon's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. He had faced his tormentors, faced their cruelty, and now he stood tall, a young man who belonged, not because he conformed, but because he had dared to persevere. A moment of victory had arrived, a moment that would change everything, a moment that showed the world he was more than enough. When the baseball field at Lincoln High School was a scene of quiet reflection in the weeks following the playoff victory, the green grass now a symbol of triumph, the air filled with the soft hum of summer anticipation as the school year neared its end. Trevon Harris stood near the dugout, his small frame a testament to resilience, his navy blue uniform now a badge of honor, his cap resting lightly on his short, curly hair. His deep brown eyes, one still impaired from the injury, reflecting a mix of pride and determination. His hands tossed a baseball lightly between them, his heart steady with newfound confidence. Trevon was a 16-year-old junior of African descent. His journey from a bullied outsider to a celebrated hero, a story that had reshaped the school's culture. His clutch performance in the playoffs, hitting the game-winning run despite his impaired vision, had not only led Lincoln High to victory, but had also caught the attention of the wider baseball community. Today, he was preparing for a special visit. The stands were sparsely populated. A small crowd of students and parents gathered to watch, their voices a low murmur of excitement. A man in a navy polo shirt and khakis approached the field, his clipboard in hand, his expression one of keen interest. He was Coach Daniels, a scout from the Ohio Junior Hawks, an amateur baseball team known for nurturing young talent. Trevon Harris, Daniels called, his voice warm but professional. Trevon turned, his heart racing. Yes, sir, he said, his tone steady. Daniels extended a hand. I'm Coach Daniels with the Ohio Junior Hawks, he said. I saw your playoff game. You've got something special. Kid, I'd like to talk about you joining our team. Wishak Trevon's heart soared, his hands trembling slightly as he shook Daniel's hand. Thank you, sir, he said, his voice steady. I'd be honored. The crowd murmured, their voices a mix of awe and support. He's going places, a girl in the stands whispered. He deserves this. Mum, her friend replied. Daniel smiled, his voice encouraging. You've got grit, Trevon, he said. I heard about your injury. Most kids would have quit, but you didn't. That's the kind of player we want. Trevon's eyes glistened, his voice steady. I couldn't quit, he said. Baseball's my dream. I had to keep going. Daniels nodded, his tone warm. We'll set up a tryout, he said, but I've got a good feeling about you. The moment marked a turning point, but it also sparked a reckoning at Lincoln High. The news of Trevon's potential recruitment spread quickly. Reaching the administration, Principal Hayes called an emergency meeting, his office a stark contrast to the vibrant field, its walls lined with diplomas, the air heavy with the weight of accountability. Hayes sat behind his desk, his expression a mix of unease and resolve. Coach Miller stood nearby, his weathered face pale. Jake Carter and his group, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, sat in chairs. Their faces a mix of defiance and fear. We've received a formal complaint, Hayes began, his voice sharp. Trevon's family has filed a report about the incident that caused his eye injury, and given his recent recognition, we can't ignore this any longer. Jake's jaw tightened, his voice sharp. It was an accident, he said, his tone defensive. We didn't mean to hurt him. Ryan nodded, his voice desperate. Yeah, it was just a game, he said, his tone shaky. Hayes raised a hand, his voice firm. Enough, he said, his tone final. We've reviewed statements from other players. Multiple witnesses confirmed the ball was thrown at Trevon deliberately, and the team's behavior toward him was discriminatory. The room fell silent, the weight of the accusation heavy. Coach Miller shifted uncomfortably, his voice low. I didn't think it was serious, he said, his tone hesitant. I thought he'd shake it off. Hayes' eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. You dismissed a serious injury, he said, and you allowed a culture of bullying to fester, effective immediately. You're on administrative leave pending a full review. Miller's face paled, his hands trembling. But I've coached here for years, he stammered, his voice quivering. Hayes turned to Jake and his group, his voice cold. Jake Carter, Ryan Holt, Dylan Brooks, Caleb Evans, you're suspended from the team for the rest of the season, he said. You'll also attend mandatory anti-discrimination training, and you'll write a formal apology to Trevon and his family. Jake's face turned red, his hands clenching into fists. This isn't fair, he shouted, his voice desperate. He's the one who doesn't belong. Hayes' voice was unyielding. You don't get to decide who belongs, he said. Your actions caused harm, and you'll face the consequences. The crowd outside the office, who had gathered to eavesdrop, murmured in support. They got what they deserved. A boy in a track uniform whispered, Trevon deserves better, his friend replied. Hayes turned to Trevon, who had been called to the meeting, his expression softening. Trevon, I owe you an apology, he said, his tone sincere. We failed to protect you, and I'm sorry. Your talent and resilience have shown us what true strength looks like. Trevon's heart lifted, his eyes glistening. Thank you, he said, his voice steady. I just wanted to play. The school's reaction marked a turning point. The investigation had revealed a pattern of discrimination, documented by teammates who had witnessed Trevon's mistreatment. Jake and his group faced further consequences, including community service. The baseball team became a space of inclusivity, its members now embracing diversity. "We're better with you, Trevon," Ethan said, his voice warm. Trevon smiled. "We're better together," he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined Lincoln High was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Trevon's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more games to win, but he was ready. Ready to face them with the strength he'd found, the strength that had carried him from a place of rejection to a position of recognition. A moment of justice had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. Yes, the baseball field at Lincoln High School had transformed into a place of unity by the fall of Trevon Harris's senior year. The green grass a symbol of renewal, the air filled with the crisp scent of autumn and the echoes of laughter from a team now bonded by respect. Trevon stood near home plate, his small frame a beacon of leadership, his navy blue uniform now adorned with a captain's patch, his cap tilted back to reveal his short curly hair. His deep brown eyes, one still impaired but sharp with focus, radiating a quiet confidence that had grown since his playoff heroics. His hands tossed a ball lightly as he coached a group of younger players. Trevon was now a 17-year-old senior of African descent, his journey from a bullied outsider to a respected team captain, a story that had reshaped the school's culture. His clutch performance in the playoffs, hitting the game-winning run despite his impaired vision, had not only led Lincoln High to victory, but had also earned him a spot with the Ohio Junior Hawks, an amateur team, sparking a reckoning at the school as he demonstrated a batting stance. A familiar voice called out, "Looking good, Captain," Ethan said, his tone warm, his smile genuine as he jogged over. Trevon's heart lifted, his voice steady. "Thanks, man," he replied, his tone warm. "Let's get these guys ready for the season." The team nodded, their faces a mix of determination and admiration. Even Jake Carter and his group, Ryan, Dylan, and Caleb, now reintegrated after their suspension, had changed. "You're a beast, Trevon," Jake had said one day, his tone reluctant but sincere. Trevon had nodded. "We're better together," he'd replied, his tone steady. The moment a small but significant victory, Trevon's confidence had blossomed. His once shy demeanor, now a quiet authority. He became a leader in his own way, mentoring younger players. "Focus on your swing," he'd tell them, his tone encouraging. "It's about timing, not power." His words resonated, the players looking up to him with admiration. "You make it look easy," a freshman named Malik said, his voice soft. Trevon smiled. "It's not easy," he replied. "But you'll get there." His influence spread beyond the team. Students who had once ignored him now sought his guidance. "You've changed the game," a girl in a track uniform said, her voice warm. "I thought I'd never be accepted, but you showed me I can." Trevon listened, his heart full. "You belong here, to Abita," he said. "We all do." The school continued to evolve, the anti-discrimination initiatives fostering a sense of community. Trevon organized a Play for Unity event, inviting local teams for a friendly tournament, the field packed with players and families. "We're stronger when we play as one," Trevon said in his opening speech, his voice echoing through the stands. The crowd cheered, their voices a testament to his impact. Coach Daniels, his new mentor from the Ohio Junior Hawks, watched from the sidelines, his eyes shining with pride. "You're a natural leader, Trevon," he said, his voice warm. Trevon smiled. "I learned from the best," he replied. His tone steady, their bond a source of strength. Trevon's leadership extended beyond the school. He started volunteering at a local youth center, teaching baseball to kids from marginalized communities. "You don't have to be perfect to play," he'd tell them, his tone warm. "You just have to love the game." The kids looked up to him, their eyes shining with admiration. "I want to be like you," a young boy named Jaden said, his voice soft. Trevon smiled. "You'll be better," he replied. His tone steady, his work with the center earned him a community service award. You're an inspiration, the director said at the ceremony, her tone warm. Trevon accepted the award, his heart full. I just want to give back, he replied. His tone steady, his influence continued to grow. He started a podcast, Swing for Change, sharing his story of overcoming racism and injury. His episodes gained traction. Your story gives me hope, a listener commented. You're a role model, another wrote. Trevon's heart soared with each message, his dream of making a difference now a reality. Coach Daniels watched his growth with pride. You're going places, kid, he said one day, his voice warm. Trevon smiled. I had the best team, he replied, his tone steady, his bond with his teammates a testament to unity. Trevon's confidence was a shield, but also a bridge. He joined the school's diversity council, advocating for more inclusive sports programs. Everyone deserves a chance to play. He'd say, his tone clear. His words resonated, the council organizing a sports festival that brought the school together. You've changed us, Principal Hayes said, his voice warm. Trevon nodded. I just wanted to play, he replied, his tone steady. The tension that had once defined Lincoln High was gone, replaced by a sense of community. Trevon's heart raced with pride, his mind soaring. He knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more games to win. But he was ready to face them with the strength he'd built, the strength that had carried him from a place of rejection to a position of inspiration. A moment of empowerment had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. The sunlit diamond of a minor league stadium in Columbus, Ohio, gleamed under the bright afternoon sky, its green field a vibrant canvas for dreams coming true. The air filled with the crack of bats and the cheers of a growing crowd. Trevon Harris stood at home plate, his now muscular frame a testament to years of dedication, his Ohio Junior Hawks uniform fitting perfectly, the navy and gold colors a symbol of his journey, his short, curly hair peeking out from under his cap. His deep brown eyes, one still impaired but sharp with focus, radiating a powerful confidence. He gripped his bat, ready for his first at-bat in a minor league game. Trevon was now 18, a rising star of African descent. His journey from a bullied high schooler to a professional prospect, a story that had inspired countless others. The crowd waited eagerly, their applause a warm welcome as the announcer's voice boomed, "Batting first for the Ohio Junior Hawks, Trevon Harris." The stands erupted, their cheers a testament to his growing fame. Trevon's journey to this moment had been paved with challenges, but his love for baseball had carried him through. I used to think my differences held me back, he'd later say in an interview, his tone reflective. But then I realized they're my strength, my story, and baseball is how I share it with the world. The audience roared, their voices a wave of support. Trevon had come a long way since his days at Lincoln High. His playoff heroics, hitting the game-winning run despite his impaired vision, had been a turning point. The school's reckoning after his injury, the suspension of Jake and his group, and the administrative leave of Coach Miller had given him justice. But it was his recruitment by the Ohio Junior Hawks that had set him on a new path. "You've got grit, kid," Coach Daniels had said, and those words had fueled Trevon's ascent. He had spent his senior year training with the Hawks, adapting to his injury with relentless determination. His one-eyed vision, now a strength, he relied on his hearing, his instincts, his left eye sharper than ever. His batting average soared. His fielding became legendary. "He's a phenomenon," a scout had said. His tone awed. Trevon had turned his pain into power, his exclusion into a celebration of resilience. His tryout with the Hawks had been a success, leading to a contract that marked the start of his professional journey. "You're going to the minors," Daniels had said, his voice warm. Trevon had smiled. "I'm ready," he'd replied, his tone steady. That contract had opened doors. Scouts from Major League teams now watched his games. "He's got MLB potential," one had noted, his tone impressed. Trevon's influence grew beyond the field. He started a foundation. Swing for Equality, to support young athletes from marginalized communities. "Your background doesn't define your future," he'd tell them, his tone warm. "Your heart does." His words echoed his own journey. His foundation hosted clinics, scholarships, and mentorship programs, giving kids a chance to shine. "You're changing lives," a parent said at one event, her voice soft. Trevon smiled. "I'm just giving them what I needed," he replied, his tone steady. His work with the foundation earned him a National Youth Award. "You're a beacon of hope," the presenter said, her tone warm. Trevon accepted the award, his heart full. "I just want to play." "Boogle," he replied, his tone steady. His story had gone viral. Sports networks featuring him as a rising star. From one-eyed underdog to prodigy. The headlines read, "Trevon became a sought-after speaker. Schools and organizations inviting him to share his story." "I was told I didn't belong," he said at a youth summit, his voice steady. "But I learned that belonging isn't about fitting in. It's about standing up, about playing your game, about loving yourself, no matter the odds." The audience stood, their applause a testament to his impact. Trevon took a bow, his eyes shining with tears of joy. He felt powerful, unstoppable, a force. Back on the field, the pitcher wound up, his arm a blur as he released a fastball. Trevon's left eye tracked the ball, his body reacting with precision. His bat swung, a sharp crack echoing through the stadium as the ball soared over the outfield. A home run on his first minor league at-bat. The crowd exploded, their cheers a wave of love. "He's incredible!" A fan shouted. "He's a star!" Another replied. Trevon rounded the bases, his heart soaring, his mind clear. He had done it. He had turned his struggle into success, his injury into inspiration. His teammates mobbed him at home plate. "You're killing it, Trevon!" A teammate shouted, his voice warm. Coach Daniels watched from the dugout, his eyes shining. "That's my guy," he said, his voice warm. Trevon's family sat in the stands, his mother's tears of pride glistening. "That's my boy," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. His younger brother waved a foam finger. "He's the best." He shouted, his voice bright. Trevon had turned his pain into purpose, his story into a movement. And in doing so, he had shown the world that he belonged, that he mattered, that he could inspire. Years later, Trevon stood on the field of a major league stadium, a different crowd, a different city, but the same message. "I was told I didn't belong," he said in a post-game interview, his voice steady. "But I learned that belonging is about creating your own path, about lifting others up, about playing with heart, no matter the odds." The crowd cheered, their applause a testament to his legacy. Trevon smiled, his heart full. He knew this was his destiny, that there would be more challenges, more games to win, but he was ready, ready to face them with the strength he'd forged, the strength that had carried him from a school of rejection to a world of baseball. A moment of fulfillment had arrived, a moment that would shape his future, a moment that affirmed his strength, his truth, his very identity. Trevon overcame discrimination to shine in baseball, becoming a true inspiration. Thanks for tuning in. If his journey moved you, hit like, share with others, and subscribe with notifications on for more incredible stories of determination and success.